And will you go live on Facebook too? Oh, okay. Hold on. Jeez. Okay. Hold on. What's it say? All right, hold on.
What's happening?
Look at these two good-looking guys.
Well, I had the nice freeze. I got crazy video stuff going on today. Let me see if I got the right one. We'll switch it up. That's a great look though. That's awesome.
Which one? The bald-headed guys or what's he talking about?
Bald-headed guy. Heck yeah.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, that's pretty intense, Brian.
It is intense. It's like, what is going on there? What did I do? There we go. I mean,
there we go.
Yeah,
happens.
awesome.
You jump out of one Zoom to the other.
Brian, look at that background. What's that? Is that wood paneling or is that, what is that?
Shiplap painted.
Shiplap. Nice.
Fancy. It's a wall in the bedroom above the garage that I converted during COVID and tried all these things. Finally, I saw this kind of like blank wall and what was it, like Pinterest or something? I was like, that looks cool. And a buddy of mine from church does carpentry stuff and we end up just like putting it together.
I've never seen it in that like herringbone pattern. That looks so cool.
That's my signature wall because there's really nowhere else in my house with dogs, kids, and everything that was going on that was safe.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot cooler if it was in the letter B, but we'll go with that. We'll go with that shiplap. It's all right.
Next upgrade.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Nice. Well, I'm here as a spectator, Brian. I really appreciate you jumping in here and doing this with Chris. This is going to be so much fun. I can't wait to push mute and just learn from you both. And I'm just grateful that you guys are both here.
Yeah, Chris said we were going to trade jokes back and forth. He was going to do a workout or something. I was like, man, I'm down. This is awesome.
I want to know if he was done running yet. I mean, the guy's been running for like a week.
Aren't you tired?
I am a little tired, but I'm good. I've got some foot issues, but I'll be fine. You know, Brian and I talk off and on since January when we met, and I just felt like every time we got off a call, I'm like, I wish other people were listening because like we just get on there and just like we just bring it, and I'm like, no, we got to make this happen. So I'm very fortunate that or thankful that he was able to fit this in because I know Renee's coming to town later today.
Yeah.
So you got the event with Renee for a couple of days. Are you going to Renee's event in October? Are you going to the Bradley Renee event?
I probably am working on schedules, kids long and some of those, but
I got my ticket. I bought my ticket last week, so I'm going to be there for sure.
Saturday, right?
Yeah, it's a Saturday.
Yeah. So as long as there's no soccer that weekend, I said my youngest is doing now baseball and soccer. And I'm like, I can keep up with the soccer.
Ooh.
You start throwing baseball, that's like different days now. Like,
That gets a little heavy. Yeah, we do tennis, and tennis is literally all over the country. So we are flying to Alabama, flying to Louisiana. I mean, we're going.
Yeah.
We just got back from New York, actually, but that was a little bit different. That was in the U.S. Open. Kids aren't prepared for that yet.
Yeah, I have to talk to you about that later. My wife plays tennis, and she's like in these NALTA groups and all these like they do the competitive, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I want to go to one of those one day. I'm like, we should go.
Yeah, it's definitely an experience. The U.S. Open is an experience for sure.
That's what Okay. Well, you're gonna be my guide. I know nothing about tennis other than I just watch what she turns on.
I've eat, slept, and breathed tennis my entire life. Well, at least since the age of 6. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's fun. Very similar to your soccer world. I did a lot of reading about you prior to, and this, congratulations on all that success.
Thanks. Yeah, that's all I saw. Yeah, after like freshman year, there was no other sports. It was like you were in one sport. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because my kids are the same way. They've only played tennis their entire life. Sure, they played basketball and soccer, but they're at a tennis academy, and so that has been their focus. Their 12 and 14 years. Yeah.
Good. What's the big goal for today for you guys? Was the big thing you want them to leave with, or to have us maybe help them with?
I think for me, Brian, it's just that the importance of a coach. I mean, I think you and I both understand that, and not just in business, but in everything. And I for me, I want to start with how important coaches were early on in our life, and why most people get away from that later in life. Why do you stop doing that? Right. So I just think that you and I both have a lot of stories we can go into deep there. And,
cool.
Like I said, every time Brian and I get on the phone, it's like, I wish more people could listen. Like we just,
yeah, we have great conversations. I'm like, this is good. I was on with my coach earlier today. Actually, we had a pretty cool breakthrough on something that we're dealing with now, that if it comes up, if it works in there, I'll share it. It was exactly why you have a coach.
Excellent. So Chris, what I intend to do here, just for you, I'm going to introduce Chris, and then I'm going to step back and just put mute, and then you and Brian, it's your show. And so I'll only introduce you, and then you can introduce Brian as your guest. Is that okay?
That'd be great.
Okay, perfect. Caroline, you want to let them all in?
Yes, I don't have anyone jumping on just yet. Everyone's late this afternoon. Yeah.
I've got a ton.
Oh, because you're the host. So I have to see them.
Here they come.
That makes me feel so much better.
Here they come. Here they come. All right, very good. Welcome in. Come on in, everybody. Come on in. There's Mary. How about Mary there? Hey, Mary. Hey, Barry.
Hello.
Hello. Come on in, everybody. We'll get started here in 1 minute. Let people trickle on in here. Welcome. We've got a fun mastermind here for you. There's Barry giving a thumbs up. Welcome. Okay, we got a couple people here. All right, everybody, welcome to the I Love Coaching Mastermind session here. We have a great mastermind topic for you. It's going to be probably near and dear to most of your hearts here that are in coaching. And my name is Adam Roach. I'm the founder of the I Love Coaching Company. We have Caroline here, and we have Coach Chris Welton here. And what we have for you today is a special event that is normally only for our inside group, only for our inside I Love Coaching tribe. And today we decided to open this up to the outside world because of Coach Chris's guest. I'm going to let him introduce his guest. However, it is an incredible guest. This man has accomplished many, many things. And Coach Chris, it is all your show, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. And for those of you who don't know, Adam is my coach too. So he's very important to me for sure there. So I got to start out with a little bit of a story. I'm driving down to South Florida in January to go to an event, and I posted on Instagram that I was going to this event. And then I have a person automatically follows me. I'm like, oh, a guy named Brian. That's cool. I get there. Brian and I hit it off right away. We just had a connection instantly, just started talking back and forth. I had no idea who Brian Covey was or what he'd done. He's one of the most humble people I'd ever met. And then I started doing research after Brian and I spent 3 days together down in South Florida. And an incredible story. I mean, if you meet Brian, I hope that someday you will. He's a retired MLS goalie. And Brian, what are you, 5'9"?
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, that's amazing, right? To be at that level, but also an Olympic soccer player. But I think the biggest success story is the way he's been able to balance his life with his wife and his children and still being able to give back to everybody he sees and touches and talks to. So I'm really honored to share Brian with you today. Brian and I have had multiple conversations over the last several months, and I was like, we got to have people listen to what we're talking about. And you may all tell us we're crazy, but I think that we have some good nuggets to come away with here. And it's an honor to share this Zoom with you, Brian.
What a pleasure, man. Likewise. And you meet certain people in your life. You guys probably can think of those that you've met, and they change how you think. They change relationships. They become part of your life. And Chris, one of those guys, like, we'll text back and forth or share a video here and there of encouragement. And I would just hope all of you guys have those people in your life, or you'll find those people as they're the ones that really change your trajectory of where you're going. And so, dude, what an honor, man. And I appreciate you, because there's a lot of things in my life and lessons, good times and bad times, that I've learned a lot from both of those, and try to just to give that away freely and help other people.
So for me, Adam, he came to me and he said, hey, what topic do you want to do for a mastermind? And I think it's the one it's near and dear to my heart, is why everyone needs a coach. And I think the first thing we think about as we're growing up is, as a coach, as kids, everybody played sports, had a coach, right? You had a coach to help you play baseball, soccer, whatever it may be. And they helped you get through life. You didn't realize till later the life lessons they were teaching you along the way, both good and bad, because I've had bad coaches too, but both good and bad. And then here we get into our professional lives, and then we're lacking that. Why don't we have a coach? So, and I talk with Brian about, like, we have to get in deep about the good coaches we had at young ages, but the importance of continuing to grow through a coach. And Brian, I'll let you take away some of your stories as a young age, why coaching was important to you at such a young age.
Yeah. So those of you that follow me, you'll know soccer is a big part of my life now. We've got 3 kids, 7, 13, and 15. And my daughter's doing travel competitive soccer as well. So we travel across the country, do all that stuff together, lots of training. And so it's, in many ways, I can kind of see what I went through as a kid. Because when we were kids, we didn't really know much different. Like if we were in sports or we were taking music lessons or whatever we did, we just went and did it. We didn't really probably see, like I didn't see, the importance of a coach till many years later. And I think, Chris, that's what I would touch on, is a lot of times we're thinking about the here and now versus who we are becoming, right? Because a lot of us are addicted to results today. If I go work out today, I'm going to be fit tomorrow. And that's just really not how life works. So I go back to my first coach, and I'll say it was 2 people, actually, because it was interesting. I had my dad, who's actually a sports psychologist and was probably one of the biggest influences still to this day in my life. You'll probably hear me talk about him some today. But I was also really blessed. I don't know if anybody's a big soccer fan, but if you kept up with Pele, okay, there we go. So Dennis, you'll get this. So Kyle Rote Jr., if you know Kyle Rote Jr., he played with Pele, one of the great American footballers. He was actually in Memphis, where I grew up. He was my first soccer coach at 4 years old, playing church league. I had no idea what I was doing. I was out there, my older brother, 5 years older than me. I just wanted to be out there because my brother was out there. And I'll never forget, I think it was the 4th game of the season. We had not scored a goal yet. So we're just showing up, we're playing, we're just having fun as 4-year-olds, smiling. I'm sure our parents are like, when's the game over? Let's go. We score our first goal, right? So it's like, we don't even know what to do. We run off the field like the game's over. We think it's over, right? I'll never forget working through with Kyle Rote Jr., the fundamentals and the things that he shared with us were things that not only on the soccer field, but off the field, sportsmanship, integrity, doing what you say you're going to do. And there were just little things that I went through in my life. I look back, every coach had something they could offer. And what I would submit to you today, my intention, one of these is for you to leave and think about not only yourself as a coach, but also that person being coached. I think the best coaches are also the most coachable people. They're willing to receive feedback from others as they go through, which is what makes them a great coach today. And so, Chris, I would tell you, I went through that season, and then fast forward through majority of the rest of my life. I had one coach in particular that was part of our Olympic development team, and I got to play there, and like the national team, all this cool stuff, right? There was one coach in particular that would work with me, and I'll never forget the one lesson, if I were to take anything from it, the hard work that he instilled. If I was late, we did somersaults on the pavement. We would pick up rocks on the soccer field that wasn't even part of soccer, but it was discipline of doing things you didn't want to do when you didn't want to do them. And he would always instill in me, when I showed up, we were there. And in that moment, nothing else mattered. and we were there to get better. And it was encouraging mixed with, I'm going to challenge you and make you better today for the next game, for the next season. And so I would just share that with you, as every great coach is coachable. And they also have an intention of their gift they can give someone else, and they share that freely and are very intentional about how they're going to help that person become better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. One of the big takeaways for me at a young age being coached, I was an athlete at a young age, and I still feel like I am today, but not on the same level as I once was. But for me, it was the transference of belief, right? Like someone else believed in me, right? And I remember being 9 years old trying to play baseball, and no one would let me get on the team. And I finally found a coach who would let me on the team and put me at first base. And he believed in me. And I was horrible at that. Like I was really bad, but he believed in me, and it built confidence. And each practice we would have a little win. We'd get a little better and a little better. And I went on to be an all-star 2 years later. And just big things happened in my life from that. And I can look back on that now and go, man, how powerful is that to share the fact that you believe in someone else? And from a coaching chair now to be a coach for all of coaching, for me, that's one of the biggest things I do, is try to make sure that the people we deal with every day know I believe in them. And you don't get that a lot. And one of the battles we have is not believing in ourselves. So if someone else believes in you, how powerful is that, Brian?
Huge. So I wrote down some stats, or as I was preparing for this, and I was just curious because my dad being a psychologist, I like to study things and understand how the mind works and psychology. Just for me, I kind of nerd out on that stuff. So I wrote down the stat, and the number one stat, if you look at people that are coached, and this is in business coaching and life coaching, 80% of the people that actually have a consistent business coach, 80% reported higher self-confidence in themselves. So Chris, what you're saying is proven by the data, right? Like I don't try to overthink things. You know, I know we're both Ben Newman fans. I look at actions and standards over my feelings. And so if there's a path to success, it usually is going to involve for all of us actions. Some of those actions we're not going to want to take. And so I think some of the inconsistency we find in our life is because we're just not willing for that temporary pain to last long enough. We might have been one rep away from getting stronger, one more run, one more mile away from improving our endurance, one more sales call, one more training to actually have improved ourselves to be at a level that we would be tremendously more successful. But it starts, like you said, self-confidence. And so I would share that with you. That stat is a psychology stat that people that are coached, like we all know works, that's the byproduct of coaching. 80% higher, man. Who wouldn't sign up for that?
Yeah. I definitely sign up. Obviously I do. Yeah. You know, when it comes down to that, I love the psychology stats. I'm a nerd on that as well. I geek out quite a bit on stats and numbers. And I think we've talked about that in the past. I find it just really powerful how much of an influence you can have in a positive way in someone's life. And for me, that has just like become something I've been very passionate about. And I coached youth sports for a long time and dabbled in some high school sports as well as the kids got older. But once I realized it was more about winning that game and more about affecting someone positively, it changed everything I thought about coaching. Yeah. And it made me more passionate about that. Of course, I like to win because, right, winning is more fun than fun is fun, right? That's so right. I do enjoy winning. But now I look at winning in a different way. If I get off a call with a coaching client and I feel like we've gotten somewhere, we made some ground, I've won, right? We've won that call. And it's not about the numbers on the scoreboard anymore because we're later in life. It's about the numbers of how we're going to change people's lives. And it's a powerful opportunity to sit there in front of someone and them ask you for advice, and they're paying you for your advice, which I still have this weird thing. I get paid. People pay me for my advice. Like I had a problem with that at first. Like, no, I don't understand how this works. But then I figured that part of it out too, thanks to Adam. But I think it's incredibly powerful. Brian, I'd love to hear your story about maybe your first business coach, what that looked like and what made you decide I want to invest in myself. Because I know for me, the highest ROI I have in any of my investments in my portfolio or anything I do is the investments I make in Chris Well, right? Like I know when I put money into Chris Welton, there's going to be an ROI. There just is. So I'm curious when you made that decision and what put you to that spot to be coached.
Yes, I love these stories. They're almost like origin stories for each of us. And my career started off in 2001 when I got in the mortgage industry. I spent 13 years in corporate America at Wells Fargo. And I was introduced to coaching through mentorship, which is, I think, a version of coaching, although it is different. As we all know, there's a difference there. I wasn't paying for that mentorship. However, I was flying up to Chicago, and that came as a result, many years of me not having gotten a promotion. And I thought, I'd started off and I had all the Todd Duncan training and I was doing all these things, right? But I wasn't investing in myself outside of marketing. Well, it wasn't until I'd been turned down. I think it was the third time I've been turned down for promotion, right? So I'm kind of like, well, where do I go? Like, am I not good enough? Like, all the things go through your head. Fortunately, one of the panelists, those of you that watched The Apprentice years ago, if you remember that show, I was a huge fan of it. You can imagine sitting around the boardroom. That's what I was doing, applying for these roles within corporate America to move up. There's like 6 people sitting around grilling you about what you're going to do, what's your vision, what's your plan. Well, truthfully, I didn't perform well enough to get the job. Someone was better than me. I wasn't ready. All of those things were real. I found a mentor, Chris, which exposed me to, wow, if I work with someone else, they can teach me from their lessons and experience that I've not yet had. And so being in the business, it was about 10 years into my career, I realized I don't know it all. I kind of already knew that, but it really exposes you to realize there's someone that can help you. And if you ask for help, they're willing to help you. And so mentorship was really, I would say, the entrance for me to realize that I needed a coach. And what's interesting is I always had a coach playing sports, right? So I never connected these dots until a few years later. I'd made a change to another company. I was helping them grow their organization and actually was going through a really difficult season. My recruiting was not good. Our team wasn't growing. I wasn't performing. I didn't like the results I had. I wasn't happy at home. Like, all these things are like, I'm not home. I'm traveling on the road, not with my family where I want to be. And quite honestly, life was not good. Like, it was hard. And after 07, 08, I'd promised myself, going through that financial collapse, I would never go back to that level of just like nothing, right? Like starting over. And so out of that pain, Chris, was really where it was birthed. And I reached out to a gentleman here, Coach Burt. And I was like, hey, I don't know what this coaching thing's about. Not really sure what's entailed and all that. He's like, okay, cool. We'll meet with you. And again, it's another step forward where I just said yes to an opportunity that actually someone had introduced me to Coach Burt, who was a coach for them. That was my first entrance into the coaching world. Well, fast forward, I still had problems in my business. I still hadn't figured some things out. I went and hired one of Tony Robbins' main guys, and I knew I was missing, for me, this core 4, like my faith, my family, my fitness, and my finances. I was not in sync and I was out of whack. I went away for 4 days, and it was more for married businessmen with kids. That was the target audience. I was blown away at the breakthroughs I had in those few days. If you've ever been part of an experience, it's beyond coaching when you go through an experience. And I came back changed. I realized, like, okay, God's created me to do something more. I started to tap into what my purpose was, what was really happening. And a great coach can bring all of that out of you in a short period of time. So I would invite all of you to consider a great coach. Doesn't always have to be that coach that's with you for years. I had a great coach in a season for sports, and I also had this great coach, Raul, through this season that brought me to a place where I was then ready to step into the next version of myself and hire a full-time business coach. Now, what I discovered, I'll give you this. You might have heard me talk about this. I don't think it's talked about enough. As I look back, the rule of thumb where I've grown the most is I like to quantify, right? Like I like things to make sense for me. So it's not feelings. It's what were the results based on the actions I took. I was investing at least 10% of my income, yes, gross income, not net, gross, into coaching when I had my biggest breakthroughs and our team was winning the most. Now, when I look back at the huge, like those, those times in your life, like you can look back over the last decade and go, man, that was the 1 or 2 times I had like massive breakthroughs. It was actually closer to 20%. Those were masterminds, coaching, spending time like we did together, Chris, with Renee. I was spending close to that amount of money. And so I would just invite you to consider, what if What if you spent that level of investment? What would you see on the other side? And I'll tell you from my experience, it was beyond belief. The last 5 years, I've grown more than the 15 years prior because I got serious about where I was going and serious about what I wanted. And I gained clarity about who I am, who I was created to be, and what I could offer other people. And through that, you get to serve. And that's what a great coach, that's what I think great leaders do. And that's why, like, you and I connected up, is you just sense that about people when they're connected and they know what they're here to do and they're living that.
I'm so glad you took us in this direction, because I feel really passionate about what you're saying. I mean, you have to look at the investment as something that there's non-negotiable there. Like, do you want to go somewhere else with your life? If you're not exactly 100% where you're at, and I know most people on the call are not, because we're most in sales, you have to figure out what to invest to help you grow. And Brian and I, we obviously running each other at events and stuff too. And I don't want to know what percentage of my income I spend, Brian. So I don't want to know what that is right now, especially in the market today. But I know that I put that as one of my top line items on my budget, and it doesn't go away. It just doesn't go away. Like, it's like my electric bill, my car insurance, my coaching are non-negotiables for me, right? I have to have those. And I'll share a little bit of my journey the last 12 months. And leading up to that, my coach was Bill Hart. I know, Brian, you know who Bill Hart is, right? And obviously Adam does. Bill Hart was my coach. I was at an event, a sales mastery event in Palm Springs, California, 2006. Bill Hart was on stage. I was brand new in the mortgage business. I literally get into an elevator after he gets off stage, and it's Bill Hart. It's what's the guy's name? Started Mortgage Coach. I'm sorry, I just lost. Dave Savage.
Savage, yeah.
And Daniel Harkavy. And I asked them, I said, if I only have a certain amount of money, listen, you'll laugh at this, Brian, a certain amount of money invest, should I invest in Mortgage Coach, which is a software, or coaching through a coaching company? And they're like, it's two totally different things. So I just got up my American Express and I did both. But I had to be coached by Bill Hart. Had to be coached by Bill Hart. That was the only way I would do it. And they're like, oh, we have these other coaches. I'm no. I've got to be, let me at least have a conversation with them. So I had a conversation with them, and Bill and I have been in a relationship now for 16 years. Bill went on to do some other things and had Adam on the podcast. So I'm sitting here going, I need a coach. I tried someone else out. It wasn't a good fit. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I owe it to myself and my family and everybody at CMP to be coached, because I will not be as great as I want to be and be a leader that I want to be without it. And then I connected with Adam. And the truth is, Adam and I have like he's not in the mortgage business. He's not, like, it's a totally different situation. And I can look at now, because Adam and I just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. Sorry, Dana, 1-year anniversary. I know you guys just got married, so you'll be celebrating soon too. But so our 1-year anniversary the other day, and the amount my life has changed in the last 12 months is unbelievable. Just from losing 40 pounds, doing 75 hard, really focused on growing and being a better leader, putting myself out in a space I would have never felt comfortable doing, like what we're doing right now. Having the courage to build a relationship with Brian Covey and Renee, and just to do those different things. And a lot of that is because my coach holds me accountable, but he's also someone I can talk to and lay it raw and, hey, this is what's going on in my head today. And I don't think people really understand the importance of that part of being coached. Is I get on a call, Adam, sometimes I'm like, I know you got an agenda, buddy, but it ain't happened today. We got my own agenda. This is what we're going to do. I need you to just listen. And here we go. And I just unload for 30 minutes. And I'm sure he probably, at the end of the day, is probably like, I got nothing left, Dana. I have nothing left in my tank. Chris took it all today. But that's part of being a coach. And that's part of being coached. And I've become really passionate about that, because I want to do the same for other people, right? I want to have a legacy at the end of my life that, hey, Chris Welton changed my life at some point because he coached me or I heard him speak, or whatever that is. And I wouldn't be where I am without having a coach to continue pushing me. And I know you feel the same way, Brian. So I want you to kind of expand on that. I mean, obviously you've done some amazing things, even just over the last few years, but what has a coach done for you to help you get there?
Oh man, I love that. So as you're talking about that, it took me back to when I was leaving college and I couldn't get employed anywhere, right? Because my resume read like soccer, more soccer, and some more soccer, right? Like there was really not a lot. And I went on to get my license. So those of you that keep up with soccer, I think it was Dennis. So I went and got my B license, right? So your A license is like college, professional, you've got to be active. So I went and got my B license as far as I could go. I thought I was going to be a coach. What was interesting during that season, and my dad, I give him credit for this, is he told me, Brian, whatever role you go into, you can also be a coach. I had separated these two things of like, well, if I'm in business and I'm in finance and I'm doing mortgages, that's what I do. But you're also a coach. So I ended up volunteering and helping out with Rhodes College, and I've helped out coaching my kids in soccer. And so you think about coaches, the importance are not just in business, but they're in life that you go through. And I've run into some of those athletes that I was able to coach now that they're grown up and they've got kids and all this stuff. And it's wild to think what a coach can do to someone's life. So Chris, I would share that as you approach coaching, I think about not just the business results, but the way I measure success. I was talking to my coach earlier today. We were having our one-on-one. I said, you know what the breakthrough was for me last Friday? And I'll be honest with you guys about what happened here as much as I can share. I had a team member that reports directly to me, a leader that I've invested in. I could kind of tell they were drifting. They quit on Friday, sent me an email at 5:30. 5:30 on a Friday afternoon before Labor Day. The old Brian would have probably been completely ticked off, emotionally thrown out. It would have ruined my whole weekend for my 3 kids. I would have been like, what the heck is this person thinking? We'd just gone through, and I won't give you all this, but we'd gone through this SCARF model that my coach had just given me a couple weeks ago. If you don't know that, you should just look it up, check it out. And I started going through the SCARF model to figure out why was I being triggered? And as I started to go through that, I found some clarity of why I was being triggered. And yes, it was ego-based. It was all around status and like, what are people going to think and all this stuff. I knew that person didn't really fit the standard for our team. We had set a standard. They weren't meeting it. It wasn't going to be long before they left. But when they do, it still hurts, right? And so I think about great coaching helps you deal with things that happen in your life faster, more intelligently. And as they had shared with me, my coach shared, he goes, Brian, when you're in a chaotic mindset, and you're not able to deal with things that are happening, which our industry's had a lot of that over the last few months, you can't be creative. You can't think rationally, and you can't show up your best for the people that you love, your family and your team. So until you can get through that tunnel you're going through, and you have the tools to get through it, you're going to be in a place that you're not able to have quality conversations, help your team. You're not going to be emotionally or physically even present. Is that who you want to be with your family and with your team? Hell no, that is not who I want to be. So a great coach will help you deal with things that not only are going to be there, but think about going into Labor Day weekend, how different that would have been with my 3 kids and my wife. So I shared, I'll just share this with you guys. I shared the SCARF model with my wife. We walked the dogs together. And so we're out walking. I shared with her, you know, what happened. I said, but yeah, I went through this. And she's like, well, yeah, like what are you really worried about? What are you triggered by? Like, she's very factual in this. Like, it was here. You're here. And I'm like, yeah, but standards over feelings. So as these things start to come up, great coaches will start actually being the self-talk that you have. So I would just, again, my experience that I would invite you to kind of consider this is, unless your self-talk can get you through difficult situations, then you need coaching. You need more coaching, right? And that's where it's helped me the most, is my self-talk now has been replaced. Limiting beliefs or less. And my self-talk is, how do I get through this? Standards over feelings, right? Work through the SCARF model. There are tools to help you win at life, and great coaches provide those. Chris, I don't get there by myself. Like, I tell everybody straight up, like, Brian is a byproduct of a lot of people. And I just happened to be that product. I looked at myself as a product or service in the sense of being a leader and a dad and a husband. And I want to be the best, man. I will pay for people to make me better, just like I will pay them to help me train and get stronger and faster. That's what we do in life, because it is a race. right?
Yeah. Look, it's definitely a journey I don't want to be on by myself. Right? It's just not. And I've been on the journey by myself. I used to know everything. I mean, I knew everything, right? I didn't know everything. And I learned some painful lessons along the way from not trusting someone else's opinion, not listening, not reading. And I think one of the most valuable things you can do is teach. So from a coaching perspective, I love to teach, right? I dedicate time every day to learn something to teach. And sometimes I'm reading something that's not for me, but it's for someone else on this call that I coach, or it's someone at our company, or it's something I can share with my wife. One of the things I do, I think that might be different than a lot of people are coached, and Adam can probably attest to this. I try to bring at least one thing to the coaching call that I can share, that I can bring to. And I think it's valuable to do that, right? I want to at least bring one thing that makes my coach think. And that may be different than most, but for me, that's a huge deal. I want to be able to bring some value as well. But that voice I have in my head that's telling me I'm not good enough, I can't do those things. What are you doing? Tom McCarthy says use the paper shredder, right? If you haven't read his book yet, you need to check that out, Breakthrough Code. But so I literally did that earlier because I was thinking to myself, am I good enough to get on this call today? So I imagined that on a piece of paper, and I went zing, there's a paper shredder, it's done. Maybe that's not how paper shredder sounds, but we're paperless. So, but to get myself ready for that. But the coaching aspect of it is what is giving me those tools to do that. And if you're not getting some type of coaching, or at least putting good information in your head every single day, you're letting yourself and everyone who's important to you down.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no two ways about that.
No, and if you look back over your life, Chris, this is where I go back. And if you can recognize patterns, that's kind of like a foundational piece. And then you can learn how to create patterns. And that's kind of the season I'm in, is how do I create patterns? Well, I go back and look at history of what did the greats do, right? And I look at where in my life did I have those, like goalkeeper coaches. And you mentioned earlier, like 5'9", I was one of 3 goalkeepers to this day, I think, that was in MLS that was under 6 feet tall. And you think about great coaches can bring out things in you don't see in yourself. And all of us have these things that we're like, well, I can't do this because of that. Or this is, that's not for me. Speaking, podcast, writing a book, being a coach, whatever it is, a great coach will see what you do well and they accentuate it and they take you on that journey. Chris, and what I've learned in this season is there's no way I would have gotten through what we've gone through the last 90 and 100 days without somebody every week holding me accountable, showing up. And what I love today, my coach shared, he goes, you know what I'm proud of you, Brian? You're doing work outside of the calls. Every time we meet the next week, you've implemented and you've tried things, even when I pushed you outside of what I know you wanted to do. And he said, every time I challenge you, you come back and you have questions, you're curious, but the work and coaching is really done outside of the call. The call is the framework, is the way I look at it, at least, of getting my mind right and then focusing for the next week of what am I going to learn and grow. And the same was true in sports, right? In sports teams, like this week, I'll use Alabama and Texas, right? Because we got a lot of Alabama fans here in our world. They are focused on that game and that opponent. They are understanding what their role is, specifically what their role in that game and what they're going to contribute to the team. That's what a great coach will bring out of you, is focus and clarity so you can move forward. Chris, and I wrote down this stat too. So I gave you the 80% of people reported higher self-confidence with a coach. How about this? 70% actually can attribute higher and better results. Who wouldn't want better results? Making more income, promotions, more success, like all those things that are there. I don't want to be in the 30% that reported less. Like, I don't even want to play that game of what if. I'm going to play the odds in my favor. And I think for all of us, that's just then doing the work. And a great coach will help you do that. So
I want to go back to the transference of belief, because I'm wondering, did you have issues with belief in yourself when two questions. One, when you wanted to be a goalie, decide to be a goalie, you're not big enough, whatever that is. Did you believe in yourself that maybe I need to do a different position or whatever? What did a coach say? No, you're a great keeper. That's what you should be. That's your role. What did that look like? And then the other thing is, how important was coaching when you left being a professional athlete to go out in the workforce? Because that had to be, kudos to you, because we could spend all call doing stories of people who were successful athletes that have done zero since they left because of the lack of ability to be coached or, the right mentors and that type of stuff. So I'm curious about both those, Brian.
Well, I was fortunate enough in 8th grade and 9th grade to already be 5'9". So I never grew from there. So it was an interesting journey of being one of the tallest and then realizing, okay, everybody else is growing. And
Brian,
I was
5'4" in 8th grade. So maybe I got your growth spurt. I'm 6'5" now. So
you took the rest of my growth that was supposed to be there. Right. And I share that just so you have like some framework of like, I'm in that season, and I'll never forget, as I was obviously fortunate enough, I was on the U17 national team, trained with the Olympic team, all this cool stuff. Right. But going to college, there were still people that would tell me, you just don't fit our prototype. We're looking for 6'3", 6'5", like not even 6 feet, right? Like I'm not even in the game for what they're looking for. And I remember there was a couple of coaches that would just share, yeah, you might be okay in college. Nobody's ever going to pick you up to play professionally. So you might just want to pick a college that's going to be good for you, that maybe you can get some playing time. But I remember those voices. I remember who they are. I can vividly remember conversations that they would have with me my junior and senior year. And what I will never forget, that one coach I told you was with me for over a decade, Richard, was always the one telling me, Brian, you have the best foot skills. You have the best footwork. You can read the game. You study like no one else. You're unbelievable in crosses. Like he was the one saying, this is what you're great at. So I would say, Chris, as I look back, that overshadowed the 10 or 20% of negativity that people said, you can't do this, you can't do that, because I just took in, and I'll give my mom credit, like one of the biggest blessings in my life. My mom had the power of just like positivity. She would always see the bright things, and no matter what happened, like no matter what tragedy, what happened there. And so I think I adopted that mindset from her, and I would see and hear what people said, and it would overshadow the negativity or the limiting beliefs that I know I had, right? Because realizing that you're 5'9" and you show up and you see all these other people, you're like, well, I don't look like them. You still have to show up anyway. And my transition from sports to business, when I was turned down again, just like for some colleges, right? By the way, I did play D1. I started my freshman year, not to brag, but I'm just telling you, like, what's possible is a top 25 school. And I was able to be the captain junior and senior year. Like all these things happen because I never quit and I never gave up. I think people quit on their dreams before they get there, and they allow someone else to put a label on them. When I just said, you know what, if I show up and I train hard enough, I believe I'll be given opportunities. And so I was able to play all 4 years, go play professionally, all that stuff that was my dream. I think Grover said it. Chris, I know we follow Grover. Imagine getting that bill of regret. Had I quit, had I listened to one of those people, that would not sit well today with me. And as I went through and I couldn't get a job in the business world, you know what I learned? I went back to lessons that I made it through. So for all of you, you have those spots and those moments in time that someone told you you couldn't do something and you did it. A great coach can bring back those memories and point back to, yeah, have you ever faced something like that before, and how did you respond? Because we all have them. Unfortunately, our brain, the way that it works, is we don't always recall them first. We recall the crap and the negativity and the losses first. So a great coach can bring that out. And Chris, I'll tell you, as I was going into business, one of my soccer coaches in college gave me that advice of just get a job with a coach that will teach you the game. And so I started, you probably know some of my story, not in the best starting kind of like, credit loan officer position, and was working in a strip mall next to a Chinese buffet and a pizza buffet. It was amazing, driving 45 minutes. But I remember him giving me that piece of advice of just join the team. Brian, if you get on the team, you'll create an opportunity for yourself. I think that's what coaches do. And look, man, I can look back on those things now, and almost every year to 18 months, least in my life, I've been faced with some level of adversity, different sizes, but something's come at me. The stronger you get, then you build that confidence muscle. You've done it before. And again, that's why I have a coach. It's like even today, my coach was bringing out some things that I'd forgotten of how are we going to lead the team forward through this? And they were able to bring out something I had forgotten. I wasn't going to bring that memory up on my own. That's what a great coach will do. And so that'd be my story that I would share, man. It's like, that's the power of a great coach.
This is so good. So good. Right. So like, that's why I wanted people to be on a call with us, because this is literally, guys, this is what we do every time we talk. Like it's rapid fire back and forth. And then I'll remember something from my past when Brian says that, and he triggers me. So I had a coaching call with Adam last year, and I was having call reluctance, like a lot of us suffer from. And my assignment for the next call, well, we call them action plans because we're adults. We're not kids. They're not assignments. They're action plans. So he said, I want you to figure out what that's from. What is it from? So I literally spent an hour in my office with nothing going on except me and a piece of paper writing it down, trying to figure it out. I figured it out, and I'll share this with you just because I think it's important. I had call reluctance because I used to call girls on the phone when I was like 7th and 8th grade to ask them out, and they would tell me no. So that's the feeling I got every time I called someone, is like, oh, someone's going to tell me no again. Someone's going to tell the 5'4" chubby kid no again. Look what they missed out on now. But you know what I mean? So it feels good. But that was it. He made me really think that through. And it's powerful. It's powerful to use your memories in a positive way, not a negative way. And I find that a lot lately. I mean, the stuff we're going through right now on the mortgage side in our industry and the real estate side is extremely challenging. So I have to go back in time, and I've been through a lot. Brian knows all my story, and so does Adam. But so I have to go back and find strength from other things I went through that were way more powerful and adverse than what I'm facing now. And one of those is in 2008, I had a front row seat to what was happening in the mortgage industry. I was right there in the front row, and the turbulence light was on, and I was buckled in, and there was nothing I could do about it. The plane was going down. I was there. So being able to be coached by someone who can pull that out of you is incredibly valuable. And I know that when I look back at parts of my life when I was playing athletics at a young age, at first it was just to make the team, right? I'm an amputee. Most of you know that. It was just to make the team. If I could just make the team. And I had a coach come to me when I was 12 years old, and Coach Wrestler was his name. And he said, Chris, it's not about making the team anymore. You're on the team. You're as good as anybody else out here. Stop acting like you're not. And again, it was the transference of belief. And I can go back to that. It was 38 years ago. If you want to do the math to how old I am going to be this weekend, it was 38 years ago. But I can remember how powerful that was. Someone looking at me and telling you it's not just about making the team anymore. You have the ability to be an all-star and go make it happen. And I didn't know that. I didn't think that way. And that's what a coach can do for you, right? Or a mentor or somebody else. It's so incredibly powerful when someone else stands there with you arm in arm and is like, no, you got this. You're way better than you think you are. And a lot of us on the call need to hear that today, I think. As the market continues to shift, and one thing goes from the other and rates went everywhere else. So for us, I needed to be able to go back and look at that. And I know that, Brian, if you want to follow up on that, and I know we wanted to see if anybody wanted to ask some questions here towards the end.
Yeah, as you were talking about that, Chris, I think that's the inside work that we do. And that same coach, Richard, that I told you about, that was with me for over a decade and all those things there. One of the greatest gifts he actually gave me was in a moment of pain and discomfort, that he actually told me something that no one else would tell me, not even my own parents. And I was about 40 pounds overweight in 8th grade. And I was still athletic enough to compete and be on the team. And I remember him coming to me, he would kind of try the joking method of, hey, pizza boy, hey, this, like trying to find what would work. And I could tell now that I look back, he was just trying to find a way to coach me and to give me, he was trying to help me. What any great coach would want. What he did though was different. I would go over to their house before trainings. I would start doing extra training, and he was a runner at that point, and he would start helping me learn to run. And I would start to eat better, and his wife would cook healthy meals. We'd figure it out. I took my family on a journey. I'm sure they probably don't like me to this day. It's like turkey, chicken breast, rice. Like we converted our whole house. And I remember losing 40 pounds over the next year and getting healthy, which to this day, I can look back, and through that pain, he was one of the only people, probably the only one that would tell me the truth. That's what a great coach will do for you. And you know they love you enough because they tell you the truth. And Chris, you know this because, dude, you're doing all these like ultra 75 hard stuff and these marathons and all this. Like today, fitness for me is like part of who I am as a dad, a business leader, a man, like how I show up. It's some of my best friends I get to work out with. Imagine if he hadn't given me the gift to fall in love with fitness and that side of like who I am and my identity today. So some of you need a great coach because they're going to pull out something that you're afraid of. It's actually holding you back from your greatness. That's what you want.
Brian, I call that when I'm in a coaching session with somebody, I ask, do I have your permission to care? And if they say yes, then I hope you're seated. Because here we go. We're gonna get really down to what I think's going on. So no, that's amazing that we can attribute things this late in our lives from things that happened to us at a young age. And if you don't follow Brian, you need to follow him on Instagram. Make sure you're following Brian Covey and not Brain Covey, because I got somebody solicited yesterday as a fake one of his. But the dude, his CrossFit workouts are just relentless. Like the only other person I know does CrossFit a little bit tougher than him is Will Gomez. Besides that, I think that the stuff Brian does in the CrossFit gym is insane. So, but we'd love to open up to some questions. If anybody has some questions for Brian or myself, we'd love to hear from you.
Great stuff, guys. I want to share an aha. Brian, as we get into the coaching space and or when we're working with a coach, I love the language that you said here, mind right and focus to learn and grow for the week, right? My biggest takeaway from that language right there is here we are winding down the year, and when we're working with our coach or a mentor or whoever it is, we're going to set the annualized goals. And then we're going to probably chunk it down to smaller bite-sized pieces, though. That, to me, I wrote down next to it as it relates to, I do what's called CAT, change, apply, teach, when I'm taking notes here. And that truly is a path of keeping things so uber small that when you get on your coaching call, it's for the week between your next coaching call. Oh, so good. Thanks for sharing that.
I love that. So I'll add on to it what we've taken from that, Adam. We've actually built out something in between. So for me, there's seasons where I need a daily reminder. And you guys might have heard this, but I had not heard this before. It came through a coaching session. Does anybody know what 1% in the day in an equation of like minutes is? You know what 1% of 24 hours is? It's 14.4 minutes. It's 15 minutes, round it up. Everybody talks about, you've heard the slogan, get 1% better every day. I started to think about it this way, is what's the 1% today I'm committed to get better? So during that week, I'm going to get better. It's 15 minutes. So I'll give you a great example. Last night, I wanted to get better. I was working with my daughter. She got on the assault bike. Her practice was canceled. We're getting on there for 15 minutes, doing a little workout, 15 minutes. Most people think, oh, that won't achieve anything. What if 15 minutes you studied, you read a book, you listened to a podcast, you made those calls, you worked on your scripting, you actually wrote down and journaled some things that you're doing. 1% is only 15 minutes. If we don't have 15 minutes to take care of ourselves and invest back in ourselves, we don't have a life. 1%, 15 minutes every day. Get better.
So good. So good. Dana, you got a question?
Yes, this was so awesome. Thank you, Brian. I actually have two really fast questions and one regular question. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, fast question. Do you have a social media coach or or does someone do it's amazing.
Thank you. So I'm actually going through this journey, and I'll just share openly. I've had several. I've worked with several people. Those of you that know, I'm actually about to align up with someone here in Nashville that if you want to connect up, I would highly recommend Rory Vaden. He did Ed My Let's.
I love Rory.
So I met Rory. He's in Nashville. And so I'll just share with you guys, this is, again, part of being coachable is I realized I had done what I could do. I'd worked with people. I've learned. I found Rory. We met at a Preds game, and I've known him for years from afar. We aligned up. And so I'm actually investing in Rory and brand builders to help me because I don't know how to do this stuff at the next level. So again, yes, I'm investing with Rory and his group, and I'm so excited. 2 days.
He just on that Let's podcast.
Yes, he was the one we took a million notes on.
Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
That's amazing. Okay, thank you for sharing. Another quick one is, what's the best book you've read this year? I always like to know.
Ooh, that's a good. I'm gonna go with the Power One More, Ed My Let's book.
Oh yeah.
Just because, like, I was looking for it. I had it here just a second ago. I've followed him and somebody that I've heard and met and all that. There you go, Chris.
Can't see it, but there it is.
Yeah. Yep.
That would be one if I were to give to anybody in business. You know, I sent it to my parents. Like that's the one right now. I think in this season for all of us that has lifelong impacts.
Yeah, love it. I'm about halfway through that. Okay, then my real question. Thanks for letting me take up time. As a leader, especially in our industry right now, what's the biggest challenge that you're facing or that you see?
I think it's a couple. One is the narrative that exists today externally from our organizations. Wherever you work today, there's the news, there's recruiters, and everyone's saying the world is this way. Our job as leaders, the hardest, but also I think the best thing we can do is lean in on the tough conversations and over communicate in a transparent way of what you're seeing, what you believe, and over communicate simplicity. Here's where we're going over the next month. Here's what our mission is. Here's what your role within that is. Going back to what great organizations know is people that are connected to the mission and understand what their purpose is every day and feel like they're contributing will show up and contribute more than they're ever asked. And I think as a leader, that's what is the toughest part today is so much noise with a rapidly changing environment that's real is how do you pull the truth out and what matters for you today and how do you create that next one? Like, is that one more? What's the next win for you? That's the toughest part today that, look, every day I would tell you my conversations, I mean, I have a lot more of them. I will say that because I'm just leaning in and how effective you can communicate. And what my coach is working on with me, as you can probably pick up on, is simplify things. I like to talk. I like to listen. I like to have conversations. Simple is better for your team right now.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Adam, you got something? I just unmuted. No?
That was a great question. I like that one. Got me thinking.
Yeah, Dana's always got some really good questions for sure. For sure.
I mean, I can keep going if nobody else has. No, I'm just kidding.
Keep going, Dana. Everybody else is being shy. Yeah,
I can't believe Troy hasn't popped off with one yet.
Hold on, we've got one here. Dennis has one.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base with the two of you all of how important like daily reflective journaling is in your process, just to be that 1% better.
So for me, it is huge, and it's twofold. One is it gets the thoughts out of my brain that sometimes shouldn't be there. Okay, because once I put something on paper, it's gone for me. The second thing is I love to be able to go back and read it later and visit. And I love Brian talking about the seasons. So it helps me figure out what season I was in when I wrote that, when I journaled it. And right now, the season we're in, there's a lot of journaling happening. You know what I mean? Like twice as much as I probably normally would do. But it's helping me remove some of that stuff from my head, putting it on paper. And I can go back and read it, but it also gets rid of some of the negativity that's spinning in there because we're all human. We have that there. What are you going to do with it? It's either going to come out of your mouth at an inappropriate time, right? Or you're going to put it on paper and you're going to be able to leave that alone. And I think one of the big parts of journaling for me is it helps with my relationship with my most important person, my wife, because if I journal all the works problems and stuff there, then I don't have to bring those to the dinner table. And that's a big deal, because I don't want to bring everything to the dinner table, what's going on in the current market or how I feel about stuff.
I love that. Well, I'll add to it because I think that's really important. There's been seasons in my life that I've journaled more than others. Where I find myself right now is I'm in a lot more conversations. And so I am taking notes. So like, you'll see my notepad and I kind of go through all this stuff here. And each of the conversations I'm on, what's helped me is writing down, kind of what you're saying, Chris, is like, if I'm on a conversation with someone, I'm going to write down not only just during the conversation, but after. What did I think about after? And something else that I've done is when we're doing some of the social media stuff, you'll see me post from there. I do a lot of voice memos to people as well, because I talk better than I write. My writing's sloppy and I can't read it sometimes. It's kind of a bad thing. And so I do voice memos, not only to my assistant, but my team members and people, so that we can get things communicated, tone, inflection. And that's usually from the journal. If I leave a coaching call and I've journaled and written things out, I'll journal before the next week. Those oftentimes turn into the things that I share on social, just to kind of give you guys something actionable for you. Is that's what people need. Is what I'm sharing. I think the reason why some of it connects is like I'm literally sharing it from what I learned this week, like what I did. And I think that's like the honesty of what's happening in my life, of why it's real. And so I just share, like, as you journal it, share it with other people. If there's a lesson you can give someone, that'll also give you additional clarity.
Anybody else? Darren, anything else you want to ask? You good?
I'm good, but he just reminded me of one of my favorite quotes, Brian. I'm sure you live this out. I can tell by listening to you, but Craig Groeschel always says people would rather follow a leader that's real than a leader that's right. And I love that you're talking about just posting like your realness from the week. I think that is probably a huge reason why you get so much activity, because you're being real on there, which is great.
Yeah, being authentic. And for somebody that knows Brian personally, he's exactly who he appears to be in social media. He's not somebody else. He's not somebody different. He's exactly who he comes across as on social media. And if you have the privilege of meeting him in person, you will see what I'm talking about. So, but for me, Brian, it was amazing. It was a lot of fun. I can't wait. I think you and I are doing a call on the 16th, I think, on Instagram Live.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. We got a lot more stuff I'm sure we're going to get into at that point. But it was an honor to have you on here. And Adam, thanks for giving me an opportunity and a platform to do this. And thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to be part of it. And it was just awesome, 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 awesome.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Chris. You guys absolutely crushed this. And thank you for all that showed up for this mastermind. Incredible stuff. And yeah, go journal and take those notes, right?
Love it.
Definitely.
Thanks, everybody.
All right,
take care. Bye-bye.